A shocking rumor spreads from Jeju Island. Jungkook is seen with a mysterious woman, sparking chaos, secrets, and whispers of pregnancy. The flash of a camera cut through the night like lightning. Jungkook, look here, a paparazzo shouted as the BTS member instinctively pulled his hood lower, shielding the woman beside him. Her face was half hidden, her long white coat swaying in the sea breeze. The narrow street of Jeju was wet from rain, the neon reflections trembling on the asphalt like secrets about to spill. Run, Jungkook hissed, grabbing her wrist. They darted through the narrow alleys of Siagwapo's old district, sneakers splashing in shallow puddles. Behind them, the click of cameras echoed like gunfire, chasing their breath. The woman's pulse raced, not from fear alone, but from the forbidden thrill of being seen with him. By the time they reached the small inn on the hill, both were drenched. Jungkook leaned against the wooden door, panting. "I told you we shouldn't have gone out," he muttered. His voice was low, strained, a mixture of anger and guilt. She looked at him, eyes trembling but defiant. "So we just hide forever? Is that what you want?" Silence. The rain tapped against the window like impatient fingers. Inside the dim room, the faint scent of jasmine tea lingered, blending with the sea salt that clung to their clothes. The woman, known only as Hannah, removed her coat, revealing the scar on her wrist. Jungkook's gaze softened instantly. He had promised to protect her, no matter what the world thought. But promises, in his world, came with prices higher than love could pay. Meanwhile, the internet was burning. A grainy photo, Jungkook's profile beside a woman in white, had gone viral within minutes. "Jungkook spotted in Jeju with mystery woman," screamed the headlines. The hashtags trended worldwide. Hashtag Jungkook Jeju date, hashtag BTS scandal, hashtag who is she? Some said she was a stylist. Others, a secret lover from years ago. But the cruelest rumor came from nowhere, that the woman was pregnant at T Big Hit headquarters in Seoul. The atmosphere was suffocating. The PR team debated damage control, while Jungkook's phone exploded with messages. "You need to explain this. Say she's just a friend. We can't afford another scandal." But how could he explain something he didn't even understand himself? Because Hannah wasn't just anyone. She was the ghost of a promise he'd made 3 years ago, a woman he'd met before fame consumed him entirely. She was the person who once saved him from himself, when he was still just John Jungkook, not the idol, not the global symbol. And now she had returned, broken, haunted, and carrying secrets darker than any rumor. As dawn approached, Jungkook stood by the window, staring at the mist rolling over the cliffs. Hannah was asleep, her breathing steady. His reflection in the glass looked like someone else. Someone trapped between the world's gaze and the truth he couldn't tell. The waves crashed below, fierce and endless, just like the chaos waiting for him when the sun rose. Somewhere outside, the faint hum of a car engine broke the silence. A black van parked by the roadside. A silhouette stepped out, camera in hand, ready to capture the truth that could destroy everything. And in that fragile moment before the first light touched the island, Jungkook whispered to himself, "This time I won't run." But deep down, he knew the storm had only just begun. The Jeju scandal deepens. Jungkook faces betrayal, hidden cameras, and a love that could ruin everything. The door slammed open before Jungkook could move. Flashlights burst through the small inn room, slicing across the walls, catching his startled expression and Hannah's half-asleep figure in their harsh glare. "Mr. John, is this your girlfriend? Is she pregnant? Why are you hiding in Jeju?" The questions stabbed like knives. Jungkook's fists tightened at his sides, rage trembling in his veins. Hannah gasped, instinctively reaching for his arm, but he stepped forward, his voice sharp and controlled. "Turn that off," he said to the closest photographer, his tone low but dangerous. "Now!" But the man only smirked. "You think your fame can stop this? The world already knows." Jungkook moved before he could think, grabbing the man's wrist, forcing the camera down. For a second, the entire room froze, breathless. Then, the sound of another shutter, click, echoed from behind him. Another photo taken. Another lie waiting to spread to be why the time security from Big Hit arrived. The damage was already done. Hours later, the headlines flooded every platform. Jungkook's Jeju escape. Secret lover exposed. BTS star in physical altercation with paparazzi. Mystery woman spotted leaving the same room. Possible pregnancy rumors intensify. In Seoul, chaos reigned. The management team demanded answers. Fans demanded truth. But the only person Jungkook wanted to protect was the one person the world wanted to destroy. Tell them it's not true. His manager pleaded in the hotel suite, voice trembling. Tell them she's just a friend, a fan, anyone. We can't control this otherwise. Jungkook looked out the window toward the ocean, endless, gray, and uncaring. I won't lie, he said simply. The manager stared, speechless. You'll ruin yourself, Jungkook. And her. I already did, Jungkook whispered. That night, Hannah sat silently across from him, her hair damp from the rain. She held a letter in her hands, creased and worn, the edges softened by time. This, she said softly, placing it on the table, is what they'll never believe. He recognized the handwriting instantly. His own. A letter from years ago, one he had written before BTS conquered the world, before fame swallowed his private life. It was a promise. If you ever come back, I'll find you. No matter what. Tears welled in Hannah's eyes. I kept it, she said. Every day I told myself it was just words. But when I saw you again, her voice broke. It felt real again. Jungkook's throat tightened. The sound of her voice, trembling with pain and hope, brought back everything he had buried. The laughter in a small cafe in Busan, the night spent dreaming of a future that never came. Outside, the wind howled, shaking the windows. It was as if Jeju itself was trying to warn them. Nothing stays hidden forever. Suddenly, his phone buzzed again. A message, anonymous. Check the news. Someone sold your old letters. He froze. When he opened the article, his blood ran cold. Photos of the same letter. Their letter were plastered across every site. Jungkook's secret love letters leaked. Emotional confession to mystery woman revealed. The comments below were brutal. So he's been dating her all along? This girl trapped him. Pregnancy rumors must be true then. Hannah's hand trembled as she read them, her lips quivering. They'll destroy me, she whispered. Jungkook looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, he realized this wasn't just a scandal. It was a war between truth and the world's hunger for spectacle. Then we fight, he said quietly. Together. Hannah met his gaze, her fear melting into something fierce and determined. Even if they never believe us. Especially then. Outside, lightning split the horizon, illuminating the restless sea. Somewhere in the distance, another camera lens glinted under the rain, waiting, recording, feeding the storm that was far from over. And as the island sank back into darkness, Jeju held its secrets close, while the world prepared to tear theirs apart. As Jeju turned silent, Jungkook and Hannah uncover betrayal within Big Hit. The truth behind the leaked letters may destroy more than their love. The sea wind howled through the cracks of the old inn, carrying whispers of headlines and half-truths. Jungkook hadn't slept. He sat by the window, hood pulled over his head, watching the first hints of sunrise paint the clouds with bruised orange. The world outside seemed peaceful, painfully ironic, considering how everything inside him was burning. Behind him, Hannah stirred, her voice small. You didn't sleep again. I can't, he said. His voice was flat, stripped of its usual warmth. Every time I close my eyes, I see cameras. She rose and crossed the room quietly, her bare feet making no sound on the wooden floor. You can't keep blaming yourself for their lies. It's not the lies that bother me, he said after a pause. It's that someone wanted them to spread. That was the part he couldn't let go. The leaked letters, the photos, the exact timing. It wasn't random. Someone had orchestrated it. Someone who knew their history. Hannah sat beside him, handing him a cup of tea. You think it's someone from your company? He didn't answer, But the silence between them was confirmation enough that Big Hit had been good to him once. They protected him, shaped his world. But the deeper his fame grew, the more he realized that protection always came with conditions. And now, it felt like someone had turned that power against him. Later that afternoon, his phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. Stop digging, or the next leak won't be letters. No name, no emoji. Just a warning cold enough to make his stomach twist that he looked up at Hannah, who was scrolling through her phone with trembling fingers. Her face had gone pale. "They're outside," she whispered. "Look." Through the curtain, he saw them. Two men in black suits, standing by the gate, pretending to smoke. Their eyes didn't move from the window. Jungkook's pulse spiked. "Get your things." Within minutes, they were out the back door, running through the narrow lanes again. The rain had returned, heavier this time, washing the world into gray smudges of sound and light. They slipped into a narrow alley, breathing hard as the rumble of engines passed by. Hannah leaned against the wall, her hair plastered to her face. "They're not fans," she said, half gasping. "They're watching us." "I know." He turned his head, scanning the street. His instincts sharp now, his idle composure replaced by something raw and protective. For the first time, Jungkook wasn't running from rumors. He was running from whoever wanted them. Silence. By evening, they reached a quiet coastal village in the east of Jeju. A fisherman's house, one of Jungkook's old acquaintances from before fame, offered them shelter. The man didn't ask questions. He only nodded, handed them towels, and locked the door behind them. Inside, the house smelled of salt, smoke, and safety. For the first time in days, Hannah let out a shaky laugh. "You're really something, Jungkook. Hiding like this." He smiled faintly. "Guess I've always been better at running than talking." But the laughter faded when he noticed the bandage around her wrist had come loose. Blood stained the edge of her sleeve. "Hannah, it's nothing," she interrupted quickly, hiding her hand. But he caught her wrist gently, his thumb brushing the faint scar beneath. "This isn't nothing." Her eyes flickered away. "That's from before you knew me." Jungkook said nothing, but the truth settled like lead in his chest. The pain she carried wasn't new. It was old, layered, unspoken. That night, while Hannah slept, Jungkook searched his inbox again. And there it was, a forwarded email from an internal account at Big Hit. The sender's name was hidden, but the content was undeniable. The original scan of his handwritten letter, sent 3 days before the leak. Someone inside had betrayed him. His fingers trembled over the screen as he whispered, "Why?" He scrolled further and froze when he saw the last line of the message. "She was never supposed to be found." A chill ran through him. The words pulsed in his mind. Never supposed to be found. Who are they talking about? Hannah. Outside, thunder cracked like a warning. Hannah stirred in her sleep, murmuring his name, while Jungkook stared at the glowing screen, his heartbeat loud against the storm. Somewhere deep inside, he realized that this wasn't just about love or scandal anymore. Someone wanted to bury the truth, and Hannah might be the key to everything. And for the first time, Jungkook understood that the enemy wasn't the rumor. It was the silence that followed it. Jungkook uncovers a hidden conspiracy inside Big Hit, while Hannah's mysterious past resurfaces, revealing secrets that could destroy everything. But the storm didn't stop that night. Rain hammered against the roof like a relentless warning, and Jungkook hadn't moved from his seat. The glow of his phone screen reflected in his eyes, the words replaying again and again. She was never supposed to be found. Dawn. The sea outside Jeju turned black with mist. Hannah was still asleep on the couch, her hand curled around his hoodie sleeve as if afraid he'd disappear. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, guilt swelling inside him. For years, he'd chased fame and perfection. Now, all of it felt meaningless compared to the woman lying beside him, a woman the world had decided to erase. When she finally opened her eyes, her voice was soft, like the calm before a quake. "You found something, didn't you?" He hesitated. "Someone from inside Big Hit sent my letter before it leaked." Her expression froze. "Inside? You mean," he nodded, "they know about you, Hannah, and they didn't want you found." She went silent, her gaze distant. Then, almost in a whisper, she said, "There's something I need to tell you." Jungkook leaned closer. "What do you mean? I used to work for them," she said, the words cutting through the silence like glass. He blinked, stunned. "Big hit." She nodded slowly, eyes full of regret. 3 years ago, I wasn't a stylist. I wasn't a staff assistant either. I was part of the digital archive division, the team that handled private records, fan correspondences, internal letters, everything. His heart pounded. I was the one who kept your letters," she admitted, tears threatening to fall. "The ones you used to write for practice, or to fans. The ones no one ever saw." Jungkook's breath caught. Those letters were supposed to be destroyed. Personal writings he'd made before debut, long before fame. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I thought it was over," she whispered. "Until I saw your name again last year, and the man who ordered my termination." Jungkook froze. "Who?" Her lips trembled. "Your senior manager." The room seemed to shrink. His chest tightened as he processed her words. The same man who had guided his early career, the one who had promised to protect him from scandal. He was the one who had fired her, hidden her, and leaked his past. "Why would he?" Jungkook began, but Hannah cut him off. "Because I knew something. Something I wasn't supposed to see." Lightning flashed outside, illuminating her face, pale, trembling, haunted. Back then, the company was hiding transactions. Not money data, real personal data. Conversations, unedited footage, even private letters written by trainees. They stored everything. Jungkook stared, his pulse quickening. "That's impossible. They would never, they would," she interrupted. "And they did." Her voice broke. "When I found your old letter in that archive, I knew it wasn't supposed to be there. It was real, personal. That's when I realized they were collecting everything. I confronted my supervisor, and the next day, I was gone. Fired. Erased." Jungkook ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "And now that you're back, they think I'll talk," Hannah said quietly. "That's why they're following us." The silence that followed was suffocating. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with dread. Jungkook stared out the window toward the fog-drenched cliffs. "If this is true," he said, "then this isn't about me. It's about covering what they did." Hannah nodded weakly. "And they'll do anything to make sure no one finds out." The old fisherman entered then, holding a folded newspaper. "You two should see this," he said gravely. The front page hit like a slap. BTS Jungkook in Jeju, secret lover's criminal past revealed. Underneath the headline was a photo of Hannah. Not smiling, not real, her face coldly edited with falsified documents. The caption read, "Former employee accused of corporate data theft." Hannah's knees gave out. The newspaper slipped from her hands. "They've turned me into a criminal," she whispered. Jungkook knelt beside her, pulling her close. "They can twist anything, Hannah, but they can't change the truth." Tears streamed down her face as she clung to him. "They already did." He looked up, his jaw tight, his eyes fierce now. The quiet calm of a man who had reached his limit. "Then I'll show them the truth myself." That night, he opened his laptop, connecting to an encrypted network. Old habits from late-night gaming and studio edits serve him well now. His fingers flew across the keyboard, breaking through Big Hit's security firewall one layer at a time. Hannah sat beside him, her hand trembling on his shoulder. When the final folder unlocked, the screen filled with hundreds of hidden files, names, images, letters, videos. Years of secrets buried behind fame and smiles. And there among them, a document labeled simply, Project Echo. Jungkook clicked it that a single sentence appeared. Subjects are to be erased upon exposure. He looked at Hannah. She was already crying, silent tears streaking down her face. "Echo," she whispered. "That was my clearance code." The world around them seemed to collapse into silence. And for the first time, Jungkook realized the truth wasn't just dangerous. It was fatal. Jungkook and Hannah uncovered the terrifying truth behind Project Echo. Fame, betrayal, and secrets that could destroy everything they know. The sound of the rain had stopped, but the silence it left behind was louder than thunder. The faint glow of Jungkook's laptop screen cast their faces in pale blue light. Hannah trembling, Jungkook frozen, eyes locked on the word subjects are to be erased upon exposure. He read it again and again, as if repetition could change what it meant. But the message was clear. This wasn't a rumor or a misunderstanding. It was a directive, cold, clinical, final that Hannah's voice broke the silence, barely a whisper. They were experimenting with us, Jungkook, with everyone. Jungkook turned toward her, confusion and anger crossing his face. "What are you talking about?" "Project Echo," she said shakily. It wasn't just about data. It was about control, emotional profiling, behavior mapping. They were testing how far fans could be manipulated, how far artists could be pushed. Every message, every leak, every scandal, it was all part of a pattern. He blinked, disbelief tightening his chest. "That's insane." They would, Hannah cut in sharply. They did. They tested the boundaries of exposure. How much of your private life could be weaponized to maintain attention? Jungkook's heart pounded. "You're saying they created the rumors?" She nodded slowly, "And destroyed anyone who got too close to the truth." The room spun. He remembered every strange moment over the past few years. Leaks that appeared at the perfect time, scandals that died right before comebacks, relationships that seemed staged and denied in cycles. He'd always assumed it was coincidence. Marketing. But this was something darker. He looked back at the laptop. The folder opened to reveal dozens of subfiles, Echo_01, Echo_02, all the way up to Echo_49. Each one contained profiles, psychological evaluations, and internal notes. Names he recognized, idols, trainees, former staff, and then he saw his own, Echo_17, subject, Jungkook. He clicked it before Hannah could stop him. His stomach dropped. Inside were transcripts of his private messages, therapy notes, unrecorded studio voice logs. Every word, every insecurity he had ever tried to hide. "This can't be real," he said, his voice cracking. How did they get this?" "They've been listening for years," Hannah said quietly. "Phones, apps, emails, all linked to internal accounts. You were never supposed to know." He slammed the laptop shut, breathing hard. "We need to expose this." "Expose it to who?" she asked, eyes wide. "You think anyone will believe us?" "They control everything, Jungkook, the press, the platforms, even fan accounts. The moment we upload anything, they'll bury it, or worse." His hands trembled, fists tightening. "Then we go public in person. Live. No edits, no filters." Hannah shook her head. "They'll come for you." He met her gaze, determination cutting through the fear. "Let them." Just then the lights flickered once, twice, and went out. The laptop screen blinked black. The hum of the generator stopped. Hannah gasped. "They found us." A faint hum echoed outside, then footsteps on gravel. The fisherman's voice shouted something, muffled, then silence. Jungkook pulled Hannah toward the back door, heart racing. The only light came from flashes of lightning through the window. They ran, barefoot, through the soaked grass behind the house. A beam of light cut across the yard, flashlights. Voices shouting in Korean. "Run," he hissed. They sprinted toward the tree line, branches clawing at their clothes. Behind them, the sound of boots grew louder. Jungkook's chest burned, lungs fighting for air, but he didn't stop. Hannah stumbled once, her knee hitting the dirt, but he grabbed her hand and pulled her up. "Keep going." When they finally reached the cliffside, the rain started again, heavy, relentless. Below them, waves crashed like furious applause. The men were close now, dark silhouettes moving through the fog, flashlights cutting through the storm. Hannah turned to him, breathless. "If they catch us, they won't." She looked down, the drop dizzying. "We can't jump." "No," he said, looking around. Then he saw it. A narrow path winding down the rocks toward a sea cave below. He took her hand. "Trust me." They slid down the wet rock, scraping hands, slipping more than once. The ocean roared beneath them, salt stinging their faces. But when they reached the bottom, hidden beneath the cliff, the sound above vanished, swallowed by the cave's echoing silence. Only the waves and their ragged breathing remained. Jungkook leaned against the wall, trying to steady himself. Hannah's eyes glistened in the faint light from his phone. What now? He took a breath, the salt air burning his throat. Now, he said, we find out who else they erased. He opened the laptop again, water dripping from his sleeve. Miraculously, the battery flickered back to life, one last bar. He clicked through the echo files again, .at the very end. After all the subjects, there was one final folder, echo_00, directive origin. He opened it, a single video began to play. And on the screen, smiling, calm, speaking directly to the camera, was his own manager. If you're watching this, it means Project Echo has failed. And Jungkook, I told you never to trust what you can't control. The video glitched, distorted, and then cut to black. Hannah stared at the screen, horrified. He knew. Jungkook's voice was barely a whisper. He made it. The waves crashed harder, echoing through the cave like the sound of something ancient and inevitable awakening. And in that moment, Jungkook realized this wasn't about love anymore. It was about survival. Jungkook faces the truth behind his manager's betrayal as Project Echo unravels, forcing him and Hannah into a deadly confrontation with the past. The cave was cold and hollow, the waves outside beating like the pulse of the earth itself. Jungkook sat motionless, drenched and trembling, staring at the frozen image on the laptop. His manager's calm, smiling face. The man who had raised him through fame. The man who had told him to trust no one. The man who had built his career. He was the architect of Project Echo. The sea hissed through the cracks in the rock, each wave whispering like a ghost. He knew. Hannah crouched beside him, her breathing shaky, tears cutting through the salt and rain on her cheeks. He's the one who destroyed me, she said in a trembling voice. He's the reason I lost everything. Jungkook didn't look away from the screen. He's the reason we're both here. He replayed the video. The manager's voice was calm, eerily measured. Echo began as a behavioral archive. We tested influence, how emotion could control markets, how love could control loyalty. You, Jungkook, with a perfect subject. Charismatic, empathic, obedient. The words stabbed through the air, cold and surgical. You were never supposed to know, but you broke the algorithm. You cared too much. That's your flaw. The video flickered again, his expression softening, almost paternal. If you try to expose this, they'll erase you. Just like her. Jungkook slammed the laptop shut. He's lying, he said, his voice rough. He has to be. But deep inside, something cracked. A part of him remembered every time his scandals had been managed before they even began, every leak that made him seem more human right before release. It was all too precise, too rehearsed. Hannah touched his shoulder gently. We need to leave Jeju. He shook his head. No, we're not running anymore. I'm ending this. Before she could argue, he was already moving, grabbing the laptop, his phone, a flashlight. The storm outside had weakened, but the air felt heavier, thick with something unseen. They climbed back up the cliff path, the wind whipping at their faces. The village above was eerily quiet. The fisherman's house empty, the lights dark. Only tire tracks in the mud remained. They took him, Hannah whispered. Jungkook swallowed hard. Then they're still here. He opened his phone, trying to connect to the network. No signal, no messages. Only a single unsent draft from earlier. If anything happens, tell them the truth. He hit send anyway. They moved through the misty road until they saw headlights in the distance. A black SUV parked beside the old inn where it all began. Jungkook's stomach turned. Hannah grabbed his wrist. We can't, he pulled away. Stay here. She shook her head. Not this time. They approached quietly, the gravel crunching under their feet. Through the inn's window, faint light flickered. Inside, the manager sat alone at a wooden table, a phone pressed to his ear. Jungkook's pulse pounded. Every instinct screamed to turn back. But he couldn't. Not after everything. Not after Hannah's life had been ruined for this. He pushed the door open. The manager didn't even flinch. He ended the call, set the phone down, and smiled. That same calm, calculated smile from the video. Jungkook, he said softly. You weren't supposed to see that. Jungkook's jaw tightened. You lied to me. I guided you. The man replied smoothly. Everything you have, every success, every headline. I made sure the world loved you. You think that was luck? You used me. Jungkook snapped. You used everyone. The manager's eyes darkened. You were never meant to fall in love with her. Hannah froze, her breath catching. You. He looked at her, his voice cold. You were a variable, Hannah. You weren't supposed to survive the leak. But you reappeared. That made you dangerous. Jungkook stepped forward, fury in every muscle. You destroyed her life. I saved your career, the manager shouted, slamming his hand on the table. Do you have any idea what chaos truth brings? The world doesn't want honesty, Jungkook. They want fantasy. You're not a person to them. You're a projection. Jungkook's voice trembled, but his eyes blazed. Then I'll tear down the projection. The man sighed almost sadly. Then you'll destroy yourself. A sound outside. Footsteps, engine starting. Hannah turned toward the window. They're here, she whispered. The manager straightened, smoothing his jacket. I told him to bring a car for you both. You're leaving Jeju tonight. Jungkook's heart went cold. You're not giving us a choice, are you? He smiled faintly. No, you'll disappear quietly, and they'll move on. Another rumor will take your place. That's how this works. But Hannah stepped forward, her voice sharp as glass. You think you still control the story? Her eyes glimmered with something fierce, defiance. She pulled a small flash drive from her pocket, holding it up. You forgot one thing. I kept a backup. The manager's smile vanished. What did you say? Jungkook's heart lurched. Hannah's hand shook, but she stood her ground. Everything. The files, the directives, the leaks, all of it. I copied them the night before I was fired. For a second, no one breathed. Then the manager's composure broke. Give it to me. No. He lunged toward her, but Jungkook intercepted him, slamming him back into the wall. The table crashed, papers scattering. The two men struggled, raw fury in their movements. Hannah backed away, clutching the flash drive, when the front door burst open. Men in black pouring in, shouting orders. Jungkook turned, eyes wide. Run! Hannah bolted through the back door, footsteps pounding against the rain-soaked ground. Jungkook tried to follow, but the manager grabbed him by the collar, snarling. You'll regret this. Jungkook's fist connected with his jaw, a single, desperate blow, and he broke free. He tore through the storm after Hannah, the world spinning in chaos, flashlights slicing through the night, voices echoing. When he reached the cliff edge again, she was there, standing at the very edge, rain cascading around her, clutching the flash drive like it was her last breath. Hannah, he shouted. She turned, tears blending with rain. If they take this, it's over. They won't. But behind him, the agents were closing in. He could hear the boots on gravel, the sharp clicks of safeties being released. Hannah looked at him one last time, her expression steady now, calm in the middle of the storm. For you to live free, Jungkook, she said softly, someone has to disappear. And before he could move, before he could stop her, she stepped back and vanished into the roaring sea. The world shattered. Jungkook screamed her name into the wind, his voice lost in the thunder as the waves swallowed everything. Above, the agent stopped. The manager emerged from the shadows, blood on his lip, his face unreadable. It's over, he said quietly. Jungkook fell to his knees, the rain washing over him. But his eyes, empty, broken, still burned with something the manager didn't expect, defiance, because deep down, Jungkook knew Hannah hadn't just jumped. She had left something behind, and the truth, once freed, never drowns. In the emotional finale, Jungkook confronts the last secret behind Project Echo, blurring the line between truth and illusion, and discovers who Hannah truly was. The waves were calm that morning, too calm for October. Jungkook sat on the edge of a weather dock in Busan, the sunrise painting gold across the sea. He had been living quietly for months, drifting between small towns under a different name, his fame left behind like a memory he no longer owned. For the first time in years, no one was watching him. Or so, he thought. A faint sound broke the silence. The soft click of a camera. He turned sharply, eyes scanning the empty street. Only gulls, sea mist, and an old fisherman hauling nets. Yet something in the air felt wrong. Heavy, electric. The same feeling he'd had the night of the Jeju storm. Then a voice came from behind him. Calm. Familiar. Still running from ghosts, Jungkook? He froze. That voice, that he turned slowly. And there she was, Hannah. She stood at the end of the dock, her hair shorter, her expression unreadable. For a moment, he thought it was another hallucination, one of the many that had haunted his dreams since Jeju. But no, her breath fogged in the morning air, her shadow touched the wood. She was real. He rose to his feet, every word caught in his throat. You're alive. She smiled faintly. Not in their records. For a long moment, neither spoke. The wind moved softly between them, carrying the smell of salt and rust. Finally, Jungkook broke the silence. Why did you let me think you were dead? Hannah's eyes dropped to the sea. Because you wouldn't have let me go if you knew the truth. He frowned. What truth? She reached into her coat and handed him a small black drive, identical to the one she'd given him months ago. That Project Echo didn't end when we exposed it. He stared at her. What are you saying? They rebuilt it, she said quietly, under a new name. Different handlers, same purpose. The difference is, she hesitated, her voice breaking slightly. This time they used me. The air between them shifted. Jungkook felt his stomach twist. You worked for them? I was part of it before I ever met you, she confessed. I was supposed to study you, record your behavioral patterns, test how far I could push emotional reactions. But then, I saw who you really were, and I couldn't keep lying. His voice hardened. So the night we ran, the files, the exposure, was that part of the plan too? Her eyes glistened. At first, yes, but not at the end. Jeju wasn't fake. They tried to erase me because I switched sides. He took a step back, torn between fury and heartbreak. You used me, Hannah. She looked at him, not with guilt, but with something deeper. No, Jungkook, I loved you. That's why I betrayed them. That's why I'm here now, to finish what we started. He shook his head, disbelief cracking his voice. Finish what? They're gone. She placed the drive in his hand, closing his fingers around it. Not all of them. That file contains the location of the central system, the core server that still runs Echo's data network. They can't manipulate anyone if it's gone. Jungkook stared at the drive, then back at her. Why me? I've done enough. I just want peace. Her expression softened. You were never meant for peace, Jungkook. You were meant for truth. For a long moment, neither moved. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then she stepped closer, her hand brushing his cheek. After this, you'll never see me again. Promise me you'll destroy it. He swallowed hard. Hannah, but she smiled, a sad, final smile, and whispered goodbye. Before he could respond, she turned and walked away down the dock, disappearing into the morning fog. Jungkook stood there long after she was gone, the drive warm in his palm. He looked out at the horizon, the endless, open sea, and then at the drive one last time. Without another word, he threw it into the water. It sank, vanishing beneath the ripples. For the first time, he felt no fear, no weight, only silence. He closed his eyes, breathing in the cold, clean air. The wind carried faint echoes, laughter, applause, distant voices, all fading into nothing. The echo was finally gone, and for the first time in years, Jungkook was freed.